Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order. And the first order of business is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Is there any discussion or question?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so
I'm abstaining.
okay, so the minutes of the last meeting have been approved. Any correspondence?
No correspondence aside from normal, what I'm getting from the state about state aid and all that, which we could touch upon in my report.
Okay. President's report, I will defer to the agenda. And director's report.
Okay, so I sent that out to all of you. I'm going to try a little screen share. Let's see how that goes. Oops. Ignore that. I was looking for images of Peacedale Library earlier. Hang on. So, all right, here we go. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing I really wanted to point out here is that it's annual survey time, very intense document, especially with what's going on with COVID. The date with the question mark, September 25th, has been changed to October 2nd. So I'm working on that. What the tricky part of it now that it involves the hours we're open, what we're providing for a service at the library, and we're working on that. So in a nutshell, we got to be back open, and we'll talk to that when we get down to services update. But I did want to say, Hillary, especially for you, that once these documents are completed as the chair, you have to sign off on it. And they have a new process, which is wonderful. They went above and beyond to make it so there's no paper handling. It's all going to be electronic. And I had a training today. It's very straightforward, but if there's any problems, with it, I can certainly help you, walk you through it. You could come to the library, we could do it that way, but that will be something that you'll need to do. But first, got to get completed.
Great.
So that is
all right. I'll wait to hear from you on that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Other than that, a lot of trainings, a lot of virtual programs. And that's my director's report. I'll show you a few more things that I just want to touch upon. Let's see. This will come up. I don't want to tax my computer too much, as I don't want to draw on our connection. This is, yes. Can you guys see that, or?
Pretty tough.
Pretty tough.
It's
All right.
very small.
So instead of that one, let's close that out. Let's go to this one. I apologize. So this is a look at our curbside stats, and we'll go from June, when we were open a little, well, we were open a lot, but we were open to the public. And these were what we were doing for people that were still picking up books. And you see it's kind of broken out. This is the first month, second, third, and these are the 3 branches over on the left. Then we moved to July and I'll just go down to the totals. So the totals for the month of June, and I'm sorry, we weren't open at that point. We didn't open until June 29th. But these were the curbside totals of people picking up items in June. Quite significant. And then July, when we were open, why is that the same? Oh, I'm sorry. This is June. This is July. Okay. So it goes down to almost half. And that's when we were really open. And then August doesn't want to. It goes back up because we were closed. So you could see just the amount of traffic, first of all, that we're doing, and really kind of maybe how important it is that we do get our doors open as soon as we can. I'm going to stop sharing and we can move on. I just wanted to share with you that we're still busy, open, closed. It doesn't matter. We're very busy. And I think the goal right now, and what we're going to talk about it when we get to item 6, is reopening, and not only because of the need, but also because the state is really pushing us to. Let's say pushing. So that's my report.
Okay.
Oh, what is the state saying about the budget? I'm worried that they're not going to have money next year.
Well, the grant and aid, which is all the monies that they provide to the libraries, granted that they meet the requirements that they're setting forth, is going to be the same for the coming year. They did approve that. So that budget has been approved. I don't know if that is subject to change. That's not my purview. But right now they're saying, yes, as long as you meet what we're putting out as, you know, the requirements of statute, that you will be able to receive those funds. So
Okay.
Now what happens the following year? I don't know. I wish I did.
Well, I can certainly see that if you're not open, that could be a problem for us.
Exactly. Exactly.
What about, I'm curious, Laurel, and I had read it last week when you sent it, that pipe that damaged, that was at Kingston? The
No,
pipe,
that was at Hale.
oh, Hale. Did it cause any damage to the building or the floor?
No, this was out in the parking lot area, and this has been an ongoing, a very long existing problem that I believe may have been.
Because 700 feet is a lot to have to replace. That's
yeah. That will be a challenge when it comes upon us. Like it's good now. They did the work that they needed to do.
right.
You know, it wasn't free, unfortunately, and
Yeah, if they don't do it soon, it has to wait probably till next spring.
right.
Because it's
But
too cold.
I think if I'm reading, and John Schock has been, the public services director has been wonderful in explaining what's going on. But if I'm understanding it, it's not imperative at this moment, but it does need to be done.
Right.
So, but yeah, good call.
Are there any other comments on the report or questions?
Just a question about the Hale pipe. Is that, are you saying that's a water pipe coming into the building?
Yeah, service pipe.
Town water for drinking water and so forth?
Correct.
Not the sewage pipe, the
No, the toilets, the sink. Yeah.
Okay, item number 5 is the Kingston Crosswalk. And I will say, I drove by there today and it looks the same to me. I haven't seen one bit of anything.
Me
So No surprise, August has come and gone, and now we're into September, and I don't know. So, nothing.
I don't know how to proceed either. These are not anything I think we could rush along. Maybe I could give Kenny Burke a call and ask him, you know, say, we got this letter from Peter Alviti saying that they were gonna start and they haven't started. Do you know anything about it? Like, but I don't know how to.
What else are they gonna do? I just drove there the other day. I was driving west on 138. You come up that hill, I know, driving east, right, towards Newport. It is really hard to even see the lines that the pedestrian walkway they have painted there. It's very hard to see.
Well, it wasn't that, I think one of the things they were going to do was make that more visible, maybe with the yellow lines going across.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's worth maybe waiting another month, and I could just write a little note to Mr. Alviti, since he wrote to me, and then I wrote him back thanking him for his note. And you know, I don't want to be a thorn in his side, but if we let another month or so go by and just say, oh, by the way, you know, I live right near there. I haven't seen anything, just curious.
Why wait? Do it now.
Well,
I
I don't want to
agree.
be, I don't want to
You
be
wait,
that.
It's gonna be winter and we're not gonna, and it's gonna, time will be gone.
I agree.
Maybe just say, what's the schedule? Because
All right. I mean, I'm happy to say August has come and gone. The board has met. We were just wondering, like an update, if you don't mind, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'll
Right.
get it out.
Fair. What could it
I just
hurt?
didn't want to be a nag. You know, I've been accused of
Right.
that before, so.
Sometimes it's a squeaky wheel.
Squeaky wheel, that's right, yeah.
It's the grease, yeah.
All right. Anything else about that? About the crosswalk?
Not on my end.
Okay. Then we'll go to number 6, services update.
So yes, as I was mentioning earlier, we are going to be reopening Peacedale on the 22nd. It is going to be for some limited hours. It will be Tuesday through Friday at this moment. And Pam, jump in if I forget anything.
Okay.
The hours, we will have the children's room open from 1 to 4, Tuesday through Friday, one family at a time or one patron at a time. We will have the browsing area open, and we're very, very excited that we're kind of changing the workflow a little, and this was done, or we're doing it. We're still in the process of doing it to kind of make it easier on us. So we took what we learned from opening in July, and we just kind of trying to condense it a little, make it a little more manageable, a little less staff intensive, so that if we do, God forbid, somebody has to go out sick or whatever, that we'll still be able to manage it, because that's what really happened the first time when we opened. That it just was not, we were doing it, it just wasn't manageable. So here's the exciting part. We are moving, for those of you who are familiar, our whole fiction collection will now be in that main front room.
that's a
So-
great idea.
So where all the nonfiction was like, we're doing it. It's gonna go down to the wire. Where that was, it's basically like flip-flopping the main room to the front room. And we're doing a big lead because there's only so much you can fit in a building. It doesn't grow. The collection does, but the building doesn't. So we have to do a big lead, and we're working on that. But I'm hoping, and I think it really will, help us to really contain, keep an eye on, the people in the building. It won't be as spread out. And it will just make it easier. It looks a lot better. I'm thinking it's going to be a big hit.
It looks beautiful.
It does.
It looks beautiful. And
That's a
Look
great
great.
idea, even if we hadn't had the pandemic.
I agree.
That's such a popular area, is the fiction, right?
So that's what we're doing. We're trying to bring that to the forefront, and just make it a little more manageable than it was with the limitations that were given, with the guidelines that were given, considering.
When you reopen, how many people are going to be allowed in the building at any one? Does that change at all, or is it the same?
Yes, and I meant to send you guys the updated plan. I had sent you a plan when we first reopened, and this has been, slightly tweaked to reflect these changes. So I will send that out tomorrow. But Mario, to answer your question, it's going to be 10 in that upstairs room, and then still for the children's room, when it's open on the hours that it's open, children's room will be one. They're going to be separate, because those are going to be two separate areas, and there's going to be some learning curve for us. Say if somebody wants to be in the children's room and then wants to go up to the main room. So I wish there was something that had all the answers from the get-go, but that is just not possible. So 10 upstairs and one family or one patron to the children's room.
Do you have a time limit on?
Quick. That is what, and we're putting signage up to say, no. I don't want to use the word loitering, but please be considerate of other people. Get your stuff and leave promptly.
Okay.
How about the computers?
We'll have those available again.
Because I know those are very popular. Right?
Yep.
Good.
And that will be all in that main room, and even a little spillover if it, those were surprisingly not as used as we thought they were going to be when we reopened in July. But we will have 5 available with potential for more if we needed to. And that will all again be in that main room with the appropriate social distancing and
So Laurel, if I'm understanding this correctly, so all fiction and nonfiction will all be in the main room, and
all fiction will be in the front room where the nonfiction was, and all the nonfiction will be in the other room where the fiction was. So it is really an undertaking, but I think it's going to be just so much more easier. I found even before COVID and before staffing constraints, it was hard for staff to want to go do shelving in the front room and maintain a phone or see people coming in. This will really put things right out in the front, make it much easier to manage. So,
Are you going to move the young adult corner?
no, that will stay. Yep. And also, just a heads up, after this is kind of to ease us back in, to make sure tweak whatever we need to tweak. And then starting October 5th, we hope to be back at not all our regular hours, but more of our regular hours from pre-COVID. And that's still to be ironed out, but that's the goal after we, just get those doors back open. And the goal, because it is also a goal of the state and the requirements to do that.
Laura, when you say regular hours after October 5th, does that include Saturdays?
It will include Saturdays, probably a half a day. And a night.
Some
That,
evening?
the state is requiring at least, I have it here somewhere, but I'm gonna say 3 contiguous, they call it, hours on a Saturday and 1 evening. They want to be able to serve people that work 9 to 5. So they're asking all libraries to take that into consideration and try to make that possible. I will also add, ooh, there's another attendee. Hold on. Who is this?
You know, I think it might be Hillary because I don't see her any longer.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're right. I don't see Hillary either.
Okay.
She's writing the letter to the DOT.
She wanted to get out of this.
Uh-oh. Let me, hold on. Oh, I know what to do. Hold on. Do we still have a quorum? 1, 2, 3, 4, yes.
She might have had computer problem.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Usually that's me.
Yeah. Let me text her.
It says 9
Pam,
participants.
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Pam, may I ask you, while Laurel's doing that, I hope there's going to be one evening eventually they're open, because I think that's important for people. Used to have 2 nights till 8 o'clock, I
Well,
think.
Yeah, next week, so on Tuesday, we will be open to the public from 12 to 7.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, and
I
then-
probably missed that. Okay,
Right.
good.
And then October 5th, if I understand it, will be open Monday and Tuesday evenings. So we'll go back to our
Right, the
to our
old way.
regular hours. Yeah, I think the only change really will be Saturdays, but I'm not, Laurel
Right, working on it.
going to iron that out. But to start for sure Tuesday
Okay.
evenings.
And is this only Peacedale in the beginning?
Right now, I mean, I for this sort of interim opening, yes,
Okay.
as far as I know.
Oh, we lost you, Hillary. Glad you're back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I lost you a while ago. I thought it was your problem. So just very quickly, I had a question.
Okay.
Before, when you were open, and you may have already answered this, so I apologize. Before, when you were open, a person had to, or a patron had to kind of make an appointment to come in.
Right.
Is that still the same?
It is not.
It is
Good.
not.
And,
Okay.
and
All right.
also, we found that to be cumbersome. It was a lot more work than we needed it to be. It did help control how the flow went, but it was just too much work and a little stressful on staff. And the state actually considers that a barrier to people coming in the library. They consider that it's not true free access if you actually, have to make an appointment. So
Okay.
Mhm.
another
Sure.
thing. So Hillary, in case you missed, the last thing I was just saying is that after, we get get back in that game, come October 5th, we should be going back to almost normal hours or almost normal pre-COVID hours. So we're looking forward to that. But first, we're just going to
Great.
get the doors back open and do that.
Okay, great. And the Canopy movie streaming?
So if you guys haven't seen that, that's a new service we're offering. It's movie streaming. Very, very easy to do. It's easy, like Hoopla is easy. And it allows you to stream. And they have everything from documentaries to indie films. It's and even great courses. If you guys are familiar with the Great Course series.
Yeah.
So patrons are allowed 5 checkouts per month. Have everything from adult to juvenile. So I encourage you to check it out. If you go to our homepage, there'll be a big slide that has it, and also a link kind of down on the bottom in the middle of the page, and you just click on it and it says get started, and it's super easy to use. So I encourage you guys to look at that. And that will be a trend that you will see, is that as a result of all this that we've been going through, we do have to be able to provide more of those types of services that people can access from home. So I'm pretty happy about that one.
As long as we can afford it. You have to pay for that, right? Is there,
It works just like Hoopla. It's paid
right.
per circ. So I like that model only because it's manageable, and you don't necessarily buy things that nobody uses.
Oh, I think they're great. I've used a bunch of them. They're wonderful.
Good.
Okay. Is there anything else, Laura, regarding the services update? If not-
The only thing I'll add, and I don't want to get into too much detail, and we're going to keep an eye on you, Hillary, in case you freeze again, guys. So don't, because I'm
Okay.
afraid we'll lose you again. The only thing I will add is the branches are in some form going to be opening to the public as well come October. Again, that is to help us to achieve that requirement from the state. We have to be open so many unique hours, and quite frankly, the branches want to be open. The people that use those branches want them to be open. So we're going to be doing that as well. I wish I had a few more details, not quite yet, but I'll have lots to report at the next meeting about that.
All right. Shall we move on to the Weaver Centennial? From South
Absolutely.
Kingstown history.
Absolutely. So the first item on that is the maintenance and cleaning item. Will say that the rhododendrons were cut back. I don't know if anybody noticed. They weren't
I
really
noticed.
decimated. So, but they were cut back in order to do the cleaning before they could do any of the conservators' work. Now we're just waiting on, you need a warm water pressure washer. So we were just kind of waiting on getting one of those, whether it's from Public Services or we rent one, but we need one in order to power wash it, so we can move on to the next steps. But it is in the works.
So there's no date yet as to when the gentleman's coming to do anything.
He cannot come until it gets pressure washed.
Okay, all right.
So
Okay,
that's still the first step, and it is on the forefront of the facilities managers. If I don't do this, Laurel's gonna kill me list.
Laurel, the conservator, did he have like a cutoff time for weather concerns, like, the end of October or November? Are we coming up against a deadline that might not be?
That's a good observation, Tim. There is some concern about that. That's why that is moving to the top of the list. I think as soon as that's done, he intended to come. So I just got to get on the facilities manager to do it. Does any of you have a warm water pressure washer?
I have a pressure washer, but not warm water.
Can't you just hook it up to warm water?
It won't last as long as you need it.
Right.
The tank would run out it's a big, big monument. We thought that, but.
All right, if the next sub issue is the panel discussion, and Donna, you would like to take that, please?
Yes, I will. And I have to say, we had a very, very good meeting this afternoon. And we concluded that what we're going to do, we'll go ahead and do the panel discussion, and I'll be asking questions, but we'll meet again in case there are lulls in the conversation so that, you know, we can get together on other questions we need to ask. So that means I can notify at least the 2 people who said yes, just to let them know what's going on. And we're hoping to put it on Zoom, and, you know, there may be some other things happening with that too. So had a very good meeting, and we also, oh boy, Betty Carter had a lot of questions about what has been happening, you know, with people of color since the 18th century, especially in the 19th and 20th century. And, you know, if they weren't allowed to work in the factories, what was their situation, et cetera. So she had a lot of questions that she want to look into as well. So I brought up the idea of maybe having, what do you call it? Interviews with older people, do an oral history project, and she really liked that idea. But I need to approach some people, and I don't know how much trust there is, but, you know, talk to people to see how best to approach different ones, you know, if we go in that direction. So that was good. Anyway, what is happening, I do feel the need, I did talk to the group about some issues, and I'm going to talk to you about some things. I'll mention some things that I didn't mention this afternoon and vice versa. I felt very strongly about what happened a couple of weeks ago, but at least I think a lot of issues were you know, taken care of in the meeting. But I need to talk about, there are some real issues in Rhode Island history. And what has happened, every place where there was slavery, there are reminders of it. And sometimes you get these weird customs that are local. And the 2 big things that has happened in Rhode Island are what I think are control and invisibility. So to the point where, you know, I wonder whether slavery really ever came to a complete end. I don't think it did. At least you have pieces of it still existing. Anyway, what I'm going to do, and I did have some information on, you know, what went on in the 20th century. I'm going to leave that alone tonight. But I think the best thing to do is to talk about, you know, what's going on in Rhode Island now, where the people are, what the issues are, and I'll mention my own experiences. Current issues. Okay, there is a community. I'll put it this way: South Kingston is not the vanilla cookie that people think it is. It has a few chocolate chips here and there, a dash of cinnamon, and even a little bit of lemon in there. So it's a little more diverse than people realize. Okay, and if you look at where people are, okay, number 1, there are 2 projects in Peacedale. One of them is in the flats. It's right off of where that little rotary is, and the other one is across the street from the Curtis Corner Middle School, and they're both kind of hidden, and that's what I mean when I talk about people being invisible. Then if you go up on Route 108, there's another housing development for people who are a little bit better off. Individuals and families of color can also be found on and off Rodman Road, Allen Avenue, Willard Avenue, and Highland Avenue. And a number of houses. Do you remember the art exhibit, the photographic exhibit we had last year that was a traveling exhibit by Kenneth Mars Jr.? Okay, Kenneth Mars Jr. lived with his parents all of his life, and his father built the house that they lived in. And his father also built several other houses in the neighborhood. So a number of families live right around Highland Avenue, Willard Avenue, et cetera, in that area. And then I would say just about everybody else is scattered around town. Most people of color, at least in South Kingstown, are Narragansett. but there is and I have to say, and a lot of them are of mixed Narragansett and African American, but they identify strongly as Narragansett for the most part, and that varies too. But there are African Americans here too. A lot come into work at, not a lot, but a fair number come into work at the university, and then you have some other African Americans in town as well. And then now, when I was working at URI, and that's been a while, there was a big population of Chinese students in the graduate village from China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. And I know there's an active Chinese community, you know, from around the state. So those are the various populations. What the issues are, okay, South County and the state is as segregated as South Africa in many of the same ways. Children of color are not welcome at most of our playgrounds, which are tax supported. And then I was in something called the South County Coalition Against Racism in the 90s and early 2000s. And one of their projects, they were trying to figure out ways to enable kids to get to various after-school activity and pay for them. The school system has always offered a lot of extracurricular activities, but if you don't have any money, you're out of luck. So that's one of the things. And then also some issues in the school system itself, the treatment, training, and tracking of the kids at school. And when they get out, it's an issue of what they're prepared for. Okay, and then other issues that you see in the state, the celebration, we're the only state in the country that celebrate victory over Japan Day and call it that. I find the mascot at South Kingstown High School to be offensive. You know, the mascot is Johnny Reb from the South. And I'm coming from a people, I mean, these folks not only enslaved us, but Jim Crow us, lynched us, and they're trying to keep us from voting. So I find that to be, you know, very upsetting. Lack of affordable housing, that's a big issue. There's even an issue with the PBS station here in Rhode Island, you know, people making really racist comments. And then all of you have heard about the smoke shop incident. So you're probably familiar with that one. So my own experiences, when I was in the coalition, there was one time when something went on in the school system and the school board and town council had a joint meeting and a lot of Black parents showed up at the meeting and they actually asked us, you know, why we were there. You know, they really kind of had the attitude that we had no right to be there. I had a situation, it wasn't a situation, but one of those little incidents. I was shopping at the grocery store, you know, maybe Shaw's or someplace at 10 o'clock on a weekday morning, and I run into a white person who asked me, well, why aren't you at work? And she had nothing to do with my job, and I'm thinking, why is this even her business, right? Very, very strange. I even had an incident at Peacedale. This was years ago at the Peacedale Library. I got ready to check out a book on computer, and the woman knew nothing about me behind the desk, except for my skin color. She takes one look and she told me, you don't need this book, and wouldn't check it out. So, and also what's strange, I mean, people all over the place kind of want to keep folks in their place, quote unquote. In Rhode Island, they want to keep you not only in your place, but in your spot. So if you're outside of where you're supposed to be, you'll get curious looks, and once in a while, you'll even get people asking you questions about that. I was living in Narragansett, moved to South Kingstown, but I went back to the IGA store in Narragansett because I wanted to buy something, and I ran into a lady who's saying, well, if you move over to South Kingstown, why are you here? And I'm saying, you know, what is all that about? Okay, getting followed at the record store, and that's universal, unfortunately. And at the time I came, and I've been here almost 30 years, and really shortly before then, Black faculty who got jobs at URI were actually advised not to live in South County. And we ended up living here, you know, for our own reasons. And it's worked out fine for the most part. But I think what remains of slavery, you have people who think that if you're of color, you don't know anything. And some people try to treat you as a slave. So that's what I mean about the control, and then the invisibility as well. I was debating, and I think I am going to talk about this too. Now, this isn't right here in South County, but it's in the state. I went to the First Church of God in the 90s, and I've gone back recently to work with the kids. For the most part, I've been a member. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. Excuse me. I've been a member at the Mount Zion AME Church in Newport for most of my time here. And what happened when I came to Rhode Island, I was kind of shocked at how people lived and just what was going on. And I said to one of the church members, did the 60s ever come to Rhode Island? And she said to me, oh yes, it came. It really, really came here. And she paused and then she said, it lasted 15 minutes. Anyway, this particular church I went to, now this church, it was a Black church, African Methodist Episcopal. It was a big church with bigger plans, and it was downtown, right? And I think they met at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. And I think that some of the members were, you know, they left the church. This church was like across from the Viking Hotel and around the corner from that real famous synagogue. So it was right in that area. And there was one guy who walked up to some of the church members and said, do you mind worshiping another time so that I don't have to see you while I'm walking my dogs? And they said, yes, we mind. And what happened was the church burned to the ground under suspicious circumstances. This is 1974. And not only did that church burn down, but there's 2 AME churches in Providence. They burned the same year. And the Black community in Newport had a very long and strong entrepreneurial tradition, and there were a lot of Black businesses downtown. Most of them were also burned out in that incident. And the fire department sat and watched it happen and didn't do anything. An organ disappeared that was very valuable, and nobody ever found out what happened to it. So again, I was telling Hillary and Laura last week, invisibility is no accident in Rhode Island, especially in Southern Rhode Island. So those are just some, so this is one of the reasons why I think it's very important. That's why I'm gathering the panel that I'm gathering, and we need to be able to have an honest talk about our history. And it may be, I think it will probably be broader than the hazards. The hazards represent what else is going on in the state, but so it's broader than them. So, but I'm hoping to, find out about the research and go from there. Anyway, can't think of anything else, but that's it. Any thoughts?
Well, Donna, we did have a nice chat in the parking lot the other day, and coincidentally, you and I both have that book,
Yes, we
Dark
do.
Work, and I guess, Tim, you also have it. And I've started reading it, and when you talk about the history, what struck me was the proportionately the amount of slaves and slave trading that Rhode Island did.
Mhm.
And I mean, that to me was actually absolutely shocking. That, I mean, I knew that Newport, had, ships going out and slave trading, but all of, Rhode Island was just thousands more slaves being traded and transported, and hundreds more ships going out than any other New England state. It was kind of amazing. So it doesn't surprise me, some of the vestiges of all of that still remaining here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can I just ask, what was the title of the book that you mentioned?
Dark
Dark Work by Christy Clark Pujara,
Oh, okay.
who came to
Yeah.
speak here.
Yeah, I remember. Okay, thank you.
And it's incredible because I'm going through the book too, and I see more and more things that have kind of linked into the present, if you know what I mean. It's not exactly as it was, but too much of it is. So, and I knew a lot about different things, but I'm finding out about more things. So one thing, I think, especially if we're able to interview people do that kind of history, I think that can act as sort of a truth and reconciliation commission, but more low key than that. And that might promote some healing, maybe. So that's why I felt good about the meeting this afternoon. And that's it. I really wanted to get that out. And there were a lot of questions too, so.
Sure, and I think, Donna, if I could say, like, this is that step to opening the dialogue, to not having that invisibility or control, and to just, you know,
Donna, wasn't
bringing
there,
things to light. I think that we could only move forward if we're going to look at the truth. So
Which is true.
you gave us a lot to think about. Sorry for that experiences that you had, but I'm glad you shared with us.
And Liz asked a question, and there's one story I meant to tell you at the beginning and forgot, but I think that's important too. And then I'm really done. But Liz, what were you about to ask?
well, no, I remember, when unfortunately a lot of the stuff was going on around the United States, that there were some students at South Kingstown High School who were trying to put together some programs. I was thinking, could we somehow involve, local high school students in your interviews, discussions, whatever?
That's a thought. That's a thought. We were focusing much more on elders for a lot of reason in order to fill in history.
Well, and I even mean white kids and African American, Native American, whatever, just because I think they're very interested,
Right.
and just to get them involved, whatever. It's just a thought. It sounds like you have a lot on your plate, Donna, with this.
Right. And that might be an idea.
And I think there's a relatively newly established coalition. Pam, do you know anything about that?
You mean at the high school?
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay, I'm gonna
Well,
look
I
into
know
that.
there is a group from the high school that worked with the school committee to come up with some measures and guidelines and policies. And it sounded, and I've only been kind of following this from a distance, but it sounded like they did a lot of work and the school committee was pretty impressed by their presentation. So I think it would be good to get involved. I have to apologize. I didn't realize there was a meeting today. I don't have the subcommittee. I just missed it somehow. I don't know whether
Well,
I didn't email or whatever, but
I didn't.
It wasn't
I
really,
wasn't either. Did I? I mean, I guess I must be with you, Tim. I think I must have missed something.
initially it was just me and Betty kind of getting together to talk
okay.
about,
Yeah.
a video we were going to do about the Weaver.
Okay.
But then, we thought that's not a wide enough focus. So we asked Donna to join us,
Oh, okay.
and that was the meeting. So it was kind of informal, and I
Last
apologize that,
No apologies. I'm just glad that I didn't, that Tim and I didn't miss something that we were supposed to be at.
you didn't miss anything.
Okay. All right.
And one last story I want to tell, and I'm going to make it quick. What happened if you, and I knew about this a long time ago because my cousin Shirley did her research on this. During slavery time in Rhode Island, during that time, if you were either Black or Indian, let's say you were born in Narragansett, but you had to go work in Warwick or Providence or something, when you got old and frail, back in those days, no Social Security or retirement. So what happened was you got shipped back to your hometown, even if you hadn't been there for years. And that was what happened. Whites were not, but Blacks and Indians were, right? Okay, reason I tell this story, now in 2012, my mother is dying and my brother moves out here from Reno, Nevada, and he looks for jobs around here and can't get anything. Then he goes up to Providence to look for work. And when they see where he lived, they said to him, "What are you doing up here? Go back to where you live and apply down there." And when David told me that, I said, "Are they still doing that?" I was really shocked. And that's why, I say a lot of what went on way back then never completely stopped, or it's still happening. And I think we really need to do something about it. So everything we can do to promote dialogue, I think would be good. And that's it.
so Donna, what can we, the board, do to help you? I mean, you're talking a lot of, pretty ambitious program, which I think it would be wonderful. But what could we do to help make that happen?
Okay. And oh boy, and right now I'm not 100% sure, but I know I would like to, I'll be working with Jessica and Betty on some questions. And I have a good idea of what I want to ask. I want to leave it as open as possible. So that's that part of it. And then I'm going to talk to some people about doing the oral history. And we did talk about maybe raising, writing a grant so that we can hire a history graduate student to do oral histories. So that's one possibility. And that would take a while. So it's not something we'd have to get done right away. At least the interview I want to do with the two speakers, I think we can put that on Zoom and we can put that up anytime we want to do that. But the other thing would take longer. And I do need to talk to people about whether and how to approach people and how we can establish trust. Because a lot of people who we would like to interview, may not trust other people. So that's another possibility. But it really would be good to get some oral histories on record. Not only the racism part, which is real, but also, what was it like to be around here at a certain point in time? So the Kenneth Ma's father, Bishop Kenneth Ma's seniors, and we had one conversation. When I first came, I told him I worked at URI, and he said, "What building are you in?" And I told him Rodman Hall. He said, "Oh, I remember Rodman Hall. I played basketball there in high school back in the 20s." And I was telling, Jessica and Betty that you got 3 research projects. What was it like to be in Narragansett at that time? What is the history of town-gown relationship between URI and the town? And then the history of Rodman Hall itself. And it turned out Jessica said that she also played basketball in Rodman Hall, and that would have been much more recently. So, but that building, and I joked about if that building could talk, because it was an armory too. And when you go in there, go into the offices and the classrooms, you can still see the gym tiles. So anyway, that's it.
Well, if I could jump in briefly, I hope the walls won't talk about my basketball performance in that building. But I want to just add a couple of other takeaways for me from our meeting today, which was that I kind of feel that there are a few areas that need to be illuminated so that people can understand the present on the basis of the past. So in Rhode Island and in South Kingstown, I think it's important to create, whatever form it takes, if it's bibliographies or if it's lectures or panel discussions or whatever, about the actual history of slavery in this community. People, one of our first meetings, Hillary said, "Well, didn't the Hazards have slaves?" And I think the first, one portion of all this to illuminate is, okay, well, what families around here had slaves? How many slaves did they have? Where did the slaves live? What kind of work did they do? And what were the economic conditions that made it possible for people to have slaves? So once that actual history is illuminated, when was slavery abolished and what happened to the people after that? So that's one piece of it that, using materials that we have at the library and asking scholars to come in to talk about things is something that we can do. The second part of it is after slavery was abolished, there were a lot of people during the 19th century and the early 20th century who wrote revisionist histories about slavery in this community, talking about how mild it was and how, it wasn't really that bad. And
Fake news.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And yet, one of them was Caroline Hazard, who wrote whole books defending ancestors of hers who had slavery, saying sentences like, slavery in the Narragansett country was a mild form of servitude. And I think that narrative still informs how a lot of people think about slavery in Rhode Island and in this area. And I think it's important to separate the actual history of it from the revisionist history that, is somehow more familiar to people, because there was a lot written in that vein. The third thing that I thought, we could do, and that this is part of what we were talking about with the oral history project that we kind of cooked up the idea for today, was that there are people living now who have, there's living memory of people experiencing the legacy of this racism and this, all these legacies of not considering people of color as, equal as people not of color. So I sort of would like to get those memories illuminated and, out there for people to share and for other people to read, so that so these are three kind of components that we talked about for an oral history project. And Betty said she would look into Rhode Island State Council for the Arts, which might provide funding for a project like that. And I like Liz's comment a few minutes ago about involving high school students.
Yeah,
There's a precedent for that, because we have a book in the library called "What Did You Do During the War, Grandma?"
Yeah.
And it was a history, an oral history project. I think maybe Linda Wood at the high school at the time, this is a long time ago, 70s maybe. She got a bunch of high school students to interview a couple dozen local women who had served some way in World War II and tell their stories. And so, the idea of training high school students to be questioners or interviewers for that kind of project, it's a great idea, and it's been done even locally. So, it's a lot to bite off.
It sounds like a 10-year project, I hate to say.
Well,
it.
exactly.
But it could have many parts to it.
It could have many parts. I mean,
right.
And there could be, it could be interviews, it could be, PDFs that we put on the library website. There could be a section under local history. And it doesn't have to be public events with a lot of people. There's a lot of this background research we could do, the whole while that, we're thinking about what to do for public events later when things open up. But I just want to say that's, kind of what we were talking about. And Betty said that she thinks it, fits well in the library's mission of encouraging inquiry into the community. And, I think gathering all this information is certainly, where people can find it is part of the library's mission. And, I'm personally happy to work on it because, this is, all over the country, people are thinking about these issues, and, to have a part in working on that in my own community, is kind of meaningful. So I'm glad that attention is being given to the subjects now.
I have a question about Zoom, Laurel. You mentioned this meeting's you're recording. I don't know, legally, or you have to have licenses. So if, say, Donna interviews people and it's done on Zoom, can I go watch it later? That to me would be good, that these things would be accessible. But I don't know if you can do that.
My hope is that like if I have the panel discussion and we do it on Zoom and it turns out to be a good discussion, that it can be put on the library website anytime.
As long as, the parties are all agreeable that, it's going to be our content, whatever we record.
Yeah.
I mean, it is going to be a public document.
Okay. And I need to, ask the people who serve on the panel.
And
Right.
I think, Jessica, great point, the three parts of it. And this is the first part, just talking about it, I imagine it's not going to be easy. Donna, you mentioned trust and coordination, of course, and all those different factors. But the first part is just starting the conversation. So we've done that, and we can only move forward from there.
I think it's a great idea. And to be honest, that it came about though, because of this sculpture and the 100th anniversary. Not to say we're not all reading about this. And Tim, I think you're right. I had read that thing about the school committee and the students that approached. But my concern is, how will ancestors, are there hazards in South County? I see that name around. How will they feel about if we talk about that their ancestors had slaves?
Well, and I'm sure there are white hazards and there are non-white hazards. In fact, somebody from the second family of hazards was my minister for 3 years. So there's a lot of hazards of all
Right.
kinds.
I see the name around.
You know, we already know how, when Christy Clark Pujara, the author of Dark Work, spoke here several years ago, a white hazard family member attended the meeting, and she was not pleased at all that her ancestor was being described in the way he was. And Christy Clark Pujara said, this is part of the story. She said people have reactions to learning this information, and it's important to take note of everybody's reaction. So, there are all kinds of reactions out there. And, in the community, this community, as in many communities, there are white hazards and there are hazards of color. And this goes back to the early history that I was talking about that, I feel needs to be illuminated. Why does that situation exist? So, the story is there.
One of the things that bothers me about this issue is the revisionist history about the causes of the Civil War. I have friends who have told me that, well, slavery was secondary. It was really about states' rights. And I was flabbergasted. I mean, how can anybody believe that? But people do. And so, and all you have to do to know that's wrong is to read some of the secession documents from the South, where they talk about, hey, we want to dominate, the white race must dominate, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, and yet all this revisionist history got written and believed. It's unbelievable. So,
we lived for a time in Mobile, Alabama, when my children were young and they went to grade school. And one of our friends, his son came home from school one day and said, the father was helping him with his history, and the son kept talking about the War of Northern Aggression, And, his father said, what war? What are you talking about? And he said, well, in the 1800s with Abraham Lincoln and the slaves. And that's how some people in the South, I'll speak for Mobile, Alabama, they're still fighting the war, but to them it was a war of Northern aggression. So we probably should kind of move on. So, at any rate, thank you, Donna.
Thank you. That was very interesting, Donna.
Yeah,
raised a lot of
and
really,
it's given us a lot of food for thought and direction to go in. And I will schedule another meeting just please let us get through reopening the library, and we'll tackle
Yeah.
that.
Very
Thank,
important.
thank you for the opportunity at this meeting to talk about it.
You're welcome. If you want to jet out, I totally understand. It's been a long day, but you're very welcome to stay.
All right.
The
I
other
just want-
item,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Yeah.
I would like to just mention one more thing that's on this topic. So at our last meeting of the Weaver Committee, one of the things that we talked about was perhaps getting a sign of some type outside near the sculpture to give a little bit of explanation about its history and the hazards, and also to point people to whatever resources we will compile about the hazards and about the history of slavery in Rhode Island. We talked about the cost, and Jessica had done some research on that, which was great. So the Rhode Island Council on the Humanities has a mini grant program where they will grant up to $2,000 to institutions like the library to do exactly this kind of thing. It's a quarterly program, and the deadline for the next quarter is in November. Tomorrow there is a information session for anybody that wants to learn more about the grant and what you need to do to apply. So I'm going to attend that. It's a Zoom meeting. Maybe that's something we might want to do, maybe not. But I will report back, after I finish the meeting, what went on there.
Thank you, Tim. That would be great. And if there's opportunity, I haven't looked too closely at the parameters of it or anything, but if there's an opportunity for you to kind of explain what we've started here, and maybe they'll have some input on what, that $2,000 could go to help us achieve it. Thank you so much, though. That is so helpful.
Laura, was there anything further on, under section 7, we had C, programming series, or did you think that we have covered that, or was there something more, or?
No, I think we've covered it. I think,
Okay.
This is all, it was a little clunky at first because I think we weren't really sure how to approach between the Weaver and then the history and everything. But I think it can, even if it's a sum of its parts, be encompassed into some type of series, or, at the very least, a place, as Jessica mentioned, that people can go to get information, the accurate information, and information that,
I should say, before I am going to leave the meeting after this, but I should say that on the library website, on the page about the Weaver that we have under Your Library Local History, the Weaver, I think, there's an exhibit up there now, Omeka, our software, and it has like, I don't know, a dozen pages on it about aspects of the Weaver. And I just added Betty Cotter's page about Caroline Hazard. So this all started with the Weaver. So anybody, just about anything you ever wanted to know about the Weaver is on the SKPL website now. So I recommend, if you're interested, to check that out. So
Thank you.
with that, if there's nothing further on this, I'm going to say good night and thank you all again.
Good night,
Thank you.
Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
All right, well, moving forward, the replacing the tree.
Okay, so I will try to sum up quickly. This all began because we had a gentleman that was willing to purchase another type of tree is escaping me, but the same type of tree that we have when you first pull into Peacedale, to replace a tree that we unfortunately had to take down. After a little inquiry, the Parks and Rec superintendent suggested or recommended and can get a tulip tree. And it would be a nice flowering tree, I believe, and a better candidate than the tree that is existing now. So that can happen perhaps before the winter comes. My question to you, I guess, and we have the money, I mentioned in a previous meeting, the South County Garden Club. I believe the tree, you know, would be roughly maybe around $300. And we have just half of that from the Garden Club, and we could certainly make up the difference probably with the friends. But I guess the question becomes, Mr. Condon, who originally had suggested replacing the tree, I would like to, with your approval, approach him and ask him, instead of, you know, what he had in mind, if maybe he would be interested in buying a bench. And I don't know if you guys remember, if he wanted to do something in memory of his brother who had Alzheimer's. Yes, so that would be kind of the recommendation, not kind of, that would be the recommendation that I would make to you, is that we move forward with the tree that the Parks and Recreation Department superintendent suggests, with the funds from South County Garden Club and whatever difference we have to make up. And then I'll approach Mr. Condon and ask if he would like to perhaps do a bench instead to go in the tree.
So if you're suggesting that motion, I guess we need somebody to make that motion.
Where would you put the
That
bench?
we-
I just want to know, where would the bench go, Laurel?
Near the new tree, like somewhere between the sign, the kiosk sign and the tree, or between the building and the tree, somewhere where people could sit and
admire the tree.
And admire the tree or the building. It's a hilly thing, so, but I think it could be done. And there's another bench that's over under the tree. Cam, is there a bench right under the existing tree? I can't think of the name of it.
Well, I would make a motion to, for the board to authorize Laurel to speak with Mr. Congdon and ask him whether he would be interested, in lieu of funding a tree, funding a bench instead near the tree or whatever, which I think is a great idea. So that would be my motion.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 There's a beautiful granite bench underneath that tree. I don't know what type of tree it is. It's,
Yeah, I have it in
you
my
know, to the
book.
left there.
Mhm.
And a lot of people sit on it. Sometimes Tina, she'll even do story hour out there, but it's just a wonderful spot for people to sit.
Mhm.
Sorry, my mouse fell on the floor.
And if also, if I don't know if we need a motion for this, it couldn't hurt to put the tree in that was recommended by the Parks and Rec Department.
Did he
Okay.
have, is that the
Yeah,
only
that
tree?
motion.
Wait a minute. Was that the only tree he recommended?
He
Laura?
recommended either a pineapple magnolia or a tulip tree, and a tulip tree is available now.
See, because I remember talking about this last year. I think it might be fun or interesting to get the library population to vote on this, or the children of the library, to, you know, give them three options and say, which one do you, just to get people involved with the choice.
I agree that could be fun. The problem that might arise with that right now is we're not even open to the public. Like if we're looking at a window of time that we need to get the tree in the ground. I
I
don't
know, but this
know.
tree is going to be here 100 years. I mean, it's not, this is a long-term decision.
So maybe it's put it off till next year to be able to do that. I'm not sure that we could achieve that with all that's going on in the amount of time that we have. Thoughts?
I think if there's a tree available, and it seems appropriate, we should just move ahead. And there's space on the grounds for another tree if we wanted to follow up on Mario's suggestion, or maybe there's something else that we could do, because I think it would be a great idea to have some sort of, involvement of kids to pick something. A tree may be a little abstract for kids to wrap their brain around, but
it's for the board to vote on. I don't, it is a big thing. It is something that's going to be around for 100 years, so we don't need to rush. But there is an availability now, and it is being recommended by a person that does that's the type of tree that makes sense. So I'll leave it to you guys to decide.
Well, I mean, I tend to agree with you and with Tim. I mean, if it's, I like the idea of some kind of a, a contest for the public to weigh in, but I think, as you said, Laurel, to do that now is absolutely not the right time, since we're not even open, and there are other issues that need to be handled, more importantly. But I don't know, it's kind of like, if the tree is available and it's something we've talked about, and if, while Mr. Condon is on board, I think it might be hard to put it off another year. I mean, I don't know. He may decide if they're not going to do anything, I'm going to put my memorial elsewhere. My vote would be to do the tree now, or start the process now. But if we want to vote on it, or.
And that's not to say it is a large ground. That's not to say that we can't do that idea in the future where we plant another tree and we take our time and get the public involved. That's not off the table, and I feel I don't want to shoot anything down. I'm just trying to be reasonable to what other things we got going on, and there's only so many hours in the day, and I do trust what the colleagues in Parks and Rec are saying. So that's a good tree to put in.
Liz, Donna, any thoughts on?
I don't know trees, but I love tulip. That's the one that has the beautiful pink and white flowers, and then they all fall on the ground after 2 weeks or something.
Magnolias.
But they look pretty on the ground too.
Those are magnolias.
I think we need to wait post-COVID to have some big whoop-de-doo, event with kids. But
I think kids and parents have their hands full right now, and if we want to make it special, then maybe we need to just let this storm kind of pass and do it right, if we choose to go that way.
I mean, Mario, I agree with you. And I remember when we were talking about this months and months ago, pre-COVID, we were going to do something on Arbor Day or whatever with kids. And that was a great idea, but unfortunately, we can't do it now.
And I agree with Liz. I think with everything else going on, we could probably do it, maybe next year, and when we're past the COVID thing too.
I mean, I'd rather see I want to do the tree, and I want Kingston Library and Peacedale to open. I think those are really important, goals.
Okay.
Well, so are we, I don't know, we need to take a vote that we're going to go with our original motion, or are we just going to, the original motion was to start the process with the tree, and you were going to approach Mr. Condon about a bench for underneath the tree.
Correct.
which was approved. So,
Okay.
okay. All right.
Okay, well, okay, since we always approve everything unanimously, I don't approve, so I.
Okay.
Okay, so let it be
so-
known that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 approvals, one,
I'm all for the Congdon thing, that's great.
He's
but
a,
not the tree.
It's about
are you
the
voting
tree.
for the bench, Mario? Well, I'm gonna make a motion that Laurel accept or talk to the parks about getting a tulip tree to put on the grounds and let the South County Garden Club donate whatever I don't know how much they're donating.
It's 150.
I make a motion for that.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mario's not.
Mario's not, okay.
That's okay, good. Mario, we never have that.
I know, we never do, so.
I know, it's shocking.
You're on record.
We're an agreeable group.
I'm gonna have to go refresh my alcoholic beverage. As far as, so if that's what, that motion is passed, and then the second motion would be then to have Laurel approach Mr. Condon about a bench in lieu of funds for a tree.
Right, we have that. Kim made the motion, I seconded.
So that has passed,
Right.
and that has
Great, and
passed.
that's approved.
That's approved unanimously. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on if we can. So I guess the time frame we're moving forward on that. So
Right, so it's gonna be quickly.
Right.
One of the things that had to happen was the water ban has to be lifted, because the tree needs lots of water. So that hopefully will be happening in October and everything will go forward.
Okay. All right, number 9, COVID programming.
Okay, so I did a little work on this. The manager would be very happy to participate in some type of meeting. I reached out to the director of EMS to, see if he knew somebody, and he had some ideas, and I haven't heard back from him yet. And I also sent a email request to the Rhode Island Department of Health asking if they had anybody, and they got back to me and said, we're too busy. So that was a dead end. At least they got back to me though, so that was nice of them, but they're busy. People are flat out from this, dealing with this crisis. So that's where we're at that. I don't know if, Tim, you had mentioned you might have some lines.
Well, I did talk to 2 people at South County Hospital who said, yeah, it sounds like a great idea. We'll get back to you, but neither one of them has yet. So I'll try to get back to them. It seemed like they were willing and eager to do it, but just haven't gotten back to me. So.
Okay. Mario, was there anything that you had researched or done towards this? And this was your original idea?
I'm still sort of interested. There's all this confusion, you hear 2 sides to this. It'd be nice if somebody local that people actually knew would knew and respected would say, the next thing that's going to come up is whether or not you want to get this new
Vaccine
shot.
Yeah.
How safe is that? Maybe some information around what the test, how it's tested, and nothing's perfect. There's always a risk in everything you do, and give some idea what that. But those are national issues. I was more interested in just South County issues. You can always listen to the governor talk about it, or I was going to say the president talk about it, but I take that back.
Well, and that's a good point though, Mario. He talks, But what he says is entirely different from, I'm sorry, I'm
No,
not
no,
going
he
there. I'm
admits
not
it.
gonna go there.
No,
It's
no, no,
just-
you don't.
I think this
He
is the
admits
first
it
time.
himself. He admits it himself that he doesn't say. I mean, you're not saying
gonna-
anything he isn't saying.
I don't want to get all worked up, so.
Yeah.
And I
anyway.
think we could all agree there's some major uncertainty prevailing. It doesn't matter, and it's not always
Well-
purposeful because they just don't know. New studies come out every day. I believe it's the Department of Printing that started, when this first all started, back in February, March, started testing, like, how long does the virus stay on books? How long does this virus stay on magazines? How long does the virus stay on DVDs? They have changed their results every month.
Mhm.
Every month it's been something different. We
What
have to
is the answer?
quarantine our items for 48 hours. Now it's 72 hours, and it changes all the time. So it makes me very hesitant to say, please come in and speak to our patronage, when everything they could be saying is accurate, and then it changes. So I agree with you when the vaccine, please come soon, that, maybe we could help people know how to, whatever's going on. I think it's just a lot to wade through, and that doesn't mean it's concrete, and it doesn't.
Yeah, well,
I understand your desire to get
if there's a
information.
local expert that people actually know, he lives here among us, there might be a greater sense of belief. And if he doesn't know, he can just say, hey, there's disagreement on this. Nobody knows. That's fine too.
Okay.
You don't have to be perfect about things. But I just think that there would be some utility to the community to having a local doctor. Not that I know anybody, but to have a local doctor or expert say this is the latest. This is what's going on.
I can't argue with that. It would be useful. I'm not quite sure how to get there. So maybe.
Well, maybe we should just keep talking to people. Maybe the people, Tim, that at South County will get back to you. And I think what the last thing we want to do is add more confusion to what's already out there. So whoever does speak, we'd really want him to be, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want somebody speaking who is totally at odds with everything that Gina's telling us, or that her people are telling us, because Rhode Island's a small state. So,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, South County, somebody from South County Hospital, they're dealing with it, right? They have to have somebody there that actually dealing
I
with
would
it.
think so.
You would think so, and I will keep pursuing this. I hope to hear back. But if I could also just add, this information is out there.
Right.
There is. You go to the CDC website, you go to South County Hospital's website, you go to Rhode Island's
Department of Health. I've
Department
been on
of
those
Health,
sites. They do tell you.
RI.gov. The information is there. I think that people need to take a little responsibility to seek it out at some points, especially when it's ever changing. That is my biggest thing. It is ever changing.
Well, and I think, they update it more frequently in that manner. And also if we do provide them with information and it changes a few weeks or a month later, we don't want people looking back saying, oh, well, I heard that at the library.
Yeah.
When I don't know if everybody's sophisticated enough to sift through what information is current and what is not, for lack of a better expression. I
agree.
All right. if we're moving on to public comment,
For public.
Unmute myself.
Mhm.
And I just want to say I'm absolutely pleased of the broadening of the Weaver activities. I just want to make sure that we still keep the arts on the bench here, and we do something with Daniel Chester French too, to keep us with all the other places that he was involved in, that we are not alone.
Great. Thank you. Is there anything else?
Just one very quick thing.
You go, Tim.
I'm sorry, very quickly, Laurel, have you had any update on the vacancy on the board?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't speak to that earlier. So there are 3 candidates, I believe. They have not been interviewed yet. We've had a few calls. That sign has, once again, proven its worth. My understanding is that the council only looks at, one department per meeting. So hopefully with the next meeting, but there are people that are interested, and I think
Right.
we'll get somebody as soon as we can. It's just, they just have to be approved, interviewed and appointed by the council.
Okay, Liz, you had something?
Yeah, can we put, I've seen it on other library websites, and maybe it's already on ours, about voting day. And I only learned from a friend, I'm embarrassed to say, we have early voting now. You can do it at town hall under a tent. And I did it for the primary. It's wonderful. And it's very easy, and it starts on October 14th. It's on the Secretary of State's website. So maybe there could be a link, or just remind people to vote. End of story.
We can do that.
Okay.
Rock the
All
boat.
Our next meeting is October 13th, 6 o'clock, and I'm assuming, or it's going to be a Zoom meeting? We're going to keep it Zoom?
Yeah, unless you guys have an appetite to meet in person, no. Okay.
I mean, I'm fine with Zoom. Is everybody?
too.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay. So it'll be Zoom, and, all right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Good
Bye-bye.
night, all.
Thank
All
you,
Good luck,
everybody.
Laurel. I hope you have people to help move all those books.
It's me and my wonderful staff. All right, take care, everybody.
Right.
Good
Thank
night.
Good night. Good
Good
night.
night. See you next month.
Okay.